Hey guys, welcome back. By the time this video goes up, it should be on the 1st of January 2026. This is MrPokke from the past into your future. For what is your past can be your future, and your future is my present. Which is why they say the future is the present and the present of the past, in the past of my future. So today we are pretty much going to be taking a look at, as of this point, a 1 year update into the greedy and stupid project, which is going to be this video right here. Babu, my free to play Honkai Star Rail project of 2025. How time has flown, guys. It has been literally 1 year. Okay, slightly less than 1 year, because I know Bob was created on the 6th of Jan, but I just wanted to get this on the first day of the year so that you guys can kind of take a peep at this video. It has been 1 year since our greedy and stupid take that we cooked up on Twitter last year has transpired over the course of our life. And finally, after 1 year, Bob has emerged from the ashes of greed and stupidity, because the year of 2026 is going to be the crucial years, right? The crucial year for Bob, in order to essentially, he has spent his pools, and now he's not gonna be having as much of a head start as a brand new player for the current version compared to going to version 4. Which, if you guys remember way back in version 2, right? 2 going to 3, and when Enforest started, there were like a lot of bitching and whining about Honkai Star Rail's power grid and everything, and the game is unplayable because the free-to-play company the game. So this is the part where we are gonna be essentially the exact same position as the last year's complaints. Because respectfully for this year, whatever Bob clears this year, it doesn't really prove anything with HSR's power creep and the direction of where this game is going to be going. Because obviously, if you pull for the new units, you're going to clear the new content. Like, no shit, right? So, I kind of want to see how it will actually be like when we go into the next year with the newer content, and whether or not our strategies and the investments have been cooking for our free-to-play account. So before I take you guys a look into how Bob has been doing for 1 year, here are some stats for y'all, right? Here are some stats for y'all, right? Let's run this down a little bit. So the creation of our free-to-play account is gonna be on the 6th of January 2025. And our first 5-star is none other than Bailu. So every single time, whenever we have like this kind of free-to-play update account, it will always be Bailu on the 50 pity beginner banner, right? Just a time capsule back to Bob over the past 1 year. And our first limited 5-star was our E0S0D Herta. Alright, this was our first limited 5-star obtained at 76 pity on the 14th of January, which is 1 day after Bailu appeared on our account, right? And then our first end game content that we attempted was roughly 5 days later on the 19th of Jan for Epoch Shadows. So our very first score was only Epoch 2. It was only Epoch 2 at 4269, and then our first 5-star light code. It wasn't even a limited, it was a night on the Milky Way for Himiko right here. So on the standard banner, 34 pity. Did you guys know it's actually guaranteed due to a rule HSR implemented? Google HSR rule 34. Okay, our first limited 5-star light code is gonna be our Castorice light code. So my free-to-play account actually did not pull a single limited 5-star light code for the first 3 months until Castorice banner, where we then got her at 69 pity, right? And then our Trailblaze level 70, which is gonna be the max level, exactly 5 months after account creation, right? So from the 6th of Jan all the way to the 6th of June in 2025. So that is kind of like our early game stats you can see over here. Now going back down a little bit more, this is like Bob's Pools. And yes, Bob does have a pretty nice win rate for our 50-50s. So in grand total, we have done a 662 pulls over the course of 1 year. Right, in 1 year, we did 662 pulls. Our average 5-star pity is gonna be at 50, and our average 4-star pity is gonna be at 7. And our 50-50 win rate is at a whopping 91.67% at 11 out of 12. Now at this point, I know some of y'all are probably punching the air right now. Oh my god, bruh, this is unrelatable. Oh my god, Bob is so lucky. Why is Bob? This is not my free-to-play account. How is this guy so lucky? This doesn't even represent the majority of the free-to-play population, because my account as a free-to-play, I have no early 5 stars. I lose every single 50-50. I have 0 build 0. So like, I completely understand. And the only thing I can say to that is, did you know they are playing a gacha game? Oh my god, bro. You are playing a gacha game, guys. So, as per any gacha game, there will be winners and there will be losers. Now, unfortunately, whether or not you win or lose is not gonna be determined by anyone but the fate of probability, right? The RN Jesus. If Bob was to, let's just say, if Bob was gonna be hella unlucky, will you show him any pity? Will you be like, oh my god, yo, Bob is so unlucky. Let me top up 100,000 Stellar Gems for Bob because he was so unlucky. Surely that will still qualify him as a free-to-play account, right? Because he was unlucky. No, bro. Y'all wouldn't give a single flying if Bob was unlucky. If Bob lost every single 50-50 and we couldn't clear endgame content or whatever kind of difficulties we're going to be facing, y'all are just going to laugh at Bob, right? Oh my god, this guy got cooked by power creep. Bob is done. Hazor is done. And at the end of the day, as long as this guy suffers, that means I win. So unfortunately, Bob is not going to be one of those individuals. And because Bob won fair and square in a gacha game, I have 0 regrets and 0 remorse on whether or not Bob's account is going to be lucky. So for those free-to-play players, they are salty about it. Way.
The greatest unrelatable Honkai star rail player that has ever lived.
But for the remainder of y'all who still want to keep on taking a look at how my free-to-play account HSR is going to be able to progress through going into the year of 2026, I think it will be very, very interesting to see how it will be. Going down a little bit more, let's take a peep. Light Cone Banner. So our Light Cone Banner, we're going to be doing a grand total of 326 pulls, 61 average 5-star PD, which I don't even know how this is possible. Our Light Cone average 5-star, as well as our Light Cone average win rate, which is also actually 75%, is worse than my units. Which I think is just pretty interesting, right? It took more boosts on average for our Light Cone than to get a 5-star unit HSR. Now, obviously, it's just a single data point, so it is what I do, but just something pretty interesting to keep in mind over here, right? So let's take a look at what Bob has actually obtained, and that is gonna be Bailu, Japart, Standard Banner, never use bro ever again, Herta at 76 PD, Teep. Teep, guys. Our 77 pity going into 20 pity for an E1, which was my conscious decision to skip E0 button and go all in E1 Teep. And luckily, we got her in 97 pity on the 26th of Feb 2025, which is very, very good. And then this one is, frankly speaking, I blame backup player. I blame Baga player and I blame Sarah. I didn't even want this guy. Bro just said 10,000 to do a 10 move for Mydei banner. We did it. And then we just got bro. Right? So this was purely from chat goofing about. So it is what I do. Then going on a little bit more, we do have our Blade lost 50-50 to Castorice. The Castorice incident. The Castorice incident. We got ourselves the E1 in 23 pools. And then, like I mentioned always, right? Bob's account is to see what would be the best step at every reasonable point taken as a free-to-play player. If I was a free-to-play player and I got myself that 23 pools for the E1 casters, I 100% go for the E2 as a free-to-play. Even not as a free-to-play, even as I would have just went for it. And so we did, which got us our E2 Castorice in less than 100 pools, which exceptional. And I know people were like bitching and whining and crying and like, oh my god, this till this day, I have still not activated my E2 Castorice, right? Till this day, after 1 year, almost 1 year at this point, till this day, we are still using E0 Castorice for every single endgame content so that we can pander to the free-to-play community, if I can say so myself, right? Then afterwards, we just went for our E0 S0 Anaxa, 74 PD. Very good, very nice, nothing too interesting here. As well as a Hyacine at a 75 PD to get ourselves another sustain for our characters. Okay, this Sunday pool, I will talk about all of the units and my thoughts on the free-to-play account later on. But the fact that we did get him in a single 10 pool, I would say that has been a exceptional inclusion in Bob's arsenal, especially when we needed this Sunday to pivot into Team 3 for anomaly arbitration, right? And going down a little bit more, we have our Evernight at 58 PD, very nice, and Cyrene at 79 PD. And this was the last unit that Bob has ever pulled. We have no pull for anything else. We're not getting E2 Cyrene. We're not going to be getting any of the signature weapons. We are just pretty much going to be saving it for the upcoming version 4.0. And then the 5-star Lycon, we have ourselves a Himiko, Castorice, cooked by Bailu. By luckily for us, we did get Sunday in 24, so that's pretty nice. And then we got ourselves one Evernight and one Cyrene, which will then mark the end of everything that our Bob has accomplished in this entire 1 year as a free-to-play account, right? So that's all of our units. And now, after all those units, let's take a peep over here. So this is going to be our end game progression. Red meaning we couldn't clear, yellow meaning we cleared with 2-star, and green basically we cleared with 3-star, right? As a complete free-to-play. So if you take a look in our rotation, we also have every single we have almost every single clear for our Bob's free-to-play challenge. It has all been documented on this sheet right here. So pretty much as long as you want to take a look, our YouTube video will be available right here. I think I will make this available for y'all. So if y'all want to take a look and see every single one of our clears, you can feel free and yoink it for yourselves. But ever since roughly this caliber, right? Roughly this caliber, this was where we start to eventually pop off, and Bob has pretty much not failed a single endgame content, although without a 3-star. There's this one over here, which is where D Herta died on stream, but after D Herta died, we eventually went back to finish it up all stream. So we still got ourselves the 3-star clear anyways. Everything else is just gonna be 6, 7, 9, 2. Very good. All that kind of stuff. Very good. Very nice. And we have basically just cleared every single endgame content. And like I mentioned at the start of this video, this is not really that surprising because the early game, I mean, obviously when running on level 40, level 50 units, you're not going to be clearing full MOC 12. But for the rest of the stuff, when your account has been more or less like taken shape in HSR, it is very, very straightforward, especially if you have that version's flagship. So I have zero qualms with like whether or not Bob can actually clear our endgame content. It will be way more interesting to see what 2026 has to offer Bob, right? Can our Remembrance flagship hold? Because in terms of cost, Remembrance flagship is going to be Bob's highest cost investment units at 8 costs. And then the next lowest cost is just going to be D Herta with Anaxa slapping on our E1 Tribbie, right? So for all that, I'll look forward to how 2026 has to offer, and I can finally show y'all what we actually have on the actual account right here, right? So for Mr. Bobu, this is going to be our flagship DPS, highest level of investment, highest amount of stamina farmed. Almost majority of all of our stamina was basically going into our Castorice with the 4-piece bone and 2-piece bone. Tracers more or less maxed out, don't really need to care about the basic damage, and still maintaining at the E2. Now, the biggest thing is, I just realized our crit rate is 6-7%. That's very good. Yeah, but the biggest thing is, when will we activate this E2 Castorice? And I feel like the answer for this is pretty simple. Chat's original decision was we activate an E2 Castorice on her rerun. Right, we activate the E2 Castorice on the rerun. But there are also people that say like, you never activate this E2 until E0 Castorice can no longer clear content. So you have to wait until that we are using this exact same 8-cost team. So 0 cost investment. We do not invest in team Instellajates anymore for like the rest of the time. And when the day happens where Remembrance Flagship, this 8-cost team, cannot 3-star content, that's when I activate E2 Castorice. I have no idea how long that is going to take, because frankly speaking, if that is going to be happening anytime soon, it genuinely makes me wonder what's going to happen to the rest of the cast in HSR. What's going to happen to Aircon and Facial? What's going to happen to, I don't know, DOT? What's going to happen to my favorite DPS, Scylla? So the day where full 3-star is not clearable with our 8-cost Remembrance, then we will see how far this is going to be taking us going forward in the future, right? So that is gonna be for Castorice build over here. This is gonna be for our E0 S1 Hyacine. I would say that the E0 S1 Hyacine is a really good, in fact, probably one of the best units I have on my free-to-play account, where we have a 219 speed. Yep, free-to-plays can get good speed rolls. That's crazy. Free-to-play can actually get good speed rolls. The question is just whether or not you are gonna be able to get them one fine day going forward in the future. So not too much to say about the Hyacine aside from the very well amount of resources here. This S1's absolutely fucking diabolical, so very good investment. And then this is gonna be going into Evernight. For our Evernight build, we are also gonna be sticking at 67% crit rate. But we do have 2 ways where we can actually basically change this a little bit. So right now we're basically running the battery build, running the ice damage boost with a ice damage sphere, speed boots, and energy regeneration rope. Yep, 9-speed energy regeneration rope. So this one is honestly really good if I want to just give my Castorice more charge, because more energy test tends to equate to more jellyfish, which is often worth the trade-off running HP boots anyways. And then more speed just gives us more action, right? But if I sometimes want to just fuck it and just do more damage for myself, I will then just pivot this back into HP shoes as well as a HP sphere. I don't really care about energy regeneration that much. From my personal experience running these 2 builds from Evernight, they both work. In anomaly arbitration, it will depend on what the boss mechanic is going to be. So for example, if I want to use Evernight against Ligers give us free energy anyways. So energy regeneration doesn't matter. Whereas for like Aguilar, she has a lot of energy sucking mechanics and she hits you quite a decent amount of time. So getting energy regeneration will give us more mileage from there. For the current 3-star that we did against Sunday, his phase 3 absolutely doesn't hit you whatsoever. So you really want to like as many of like the jellyfish, the EV spawn, as well as the charge for casual as possible, which is why this was the build that we used for our 3-star Sunday in anomaly arbitration. So going forward for different anomalies, I think all of these builds are going to be viable just depending on what the actual environment is going to be like. Then you should be able to get a job done. So that's going to be it. And then lastly, it's going to be our last member of Remembrance Flagship, Cyrene, right? Our last member of Remembrance Flagship, that is going to be Cyrene. I would say that my Cyrene build is really nice, especially considering that we are going to be close to 100% crit rate, which her personal DPS when she lets go of ultimate is actually not to be underestimated, if I can say so myself. So good is going to be the E0 S1, and then our trace is going to be fully maxed out, and then this is going to be our latest 4-piece deliver and 2-piece Amphorius. I would say that for most situations we are going to be trying to chase for action value, going for the 2-piece Von is going to be completely fine. Unfortunately, Bob does not have a good Von Wick. Yep, we literally have 2 HP ropes, and none of them has speed. So because we don't really have a good enough one, right, I've just been using something with double crit in the meantime. If we eventually get something with like a lot more charge over here, so either HP, okay, this is kind of usable, but I want something with Tribbie, because Cyrene does deal quite a decent amount of damage by itself. So despite not really going for a 0-cycle ultimate most of the time, this will still be able to get yourself the job done for pretty much every single end content. In fact, I found this more comfortable when it comes to a clearing perspective, because Cyrene deal way more damage running this set, on top of the deliverer giving us the additional damage increase as well as the max HP rise. So that's gonna be our build for Cyrene. And now moving on to our next team. So this is gonna be our team 2, Herta. All right, I would just want to say, all right, Herta's cost investment, all right, the amount of cost, not just in terms of Lycone, because this is basically easy as we invested at 1 point and we're done, but also in terms of stamina. Because the thing with farming for Herta, as well as in a similar vein Anaxa, is that we need a farm for our Scholar, as well as either our Rusen Arena or Izumo in this particular scenario. So you can see that because majority of our stamina, because I don't do any stamina refresh, we mostly try to dump it into pieces that are efficient for multiple units at the same time. So when we were basically logging in for Amphorius with Deliverer, we didn't really manage to get any other stamina left to keep cooking up the Herta pieces, especially once these units come up. Alright, so because of this, and also when Tribbie came out, we were focusing on bone as well. So it was very, very difficult to allocate enough stamina in order to give Herta enough build to make her into a better quality, right? So as of right now, I'm just giving for this is a very, very some might say below average Herta, but I think that's kind of like one of the most important things. I think Herta as a unit, as well as my second team, they have a very low damage ceiling, which is at the highest potential damage they can do, but they still can get the job done because the damage floor is also pretty high. So even though we are going to be running a Herta looking like this, alongside with our Anaxa and our E1 Tribbie, we are still pretty much able to get our second side of the clear most of the time, if not every single time at this point of going, right? So the pieces themselves, I would say, if I have a little bit more, let's just say for example, if I really wanted to log in for Herta, I would consider getting her Signature Lycone definitely, because the additional skill point is going to be giving us a lot more leeway instead of this fucking homeless free-to-play Lycone. But that is going to be if I want to take Herta into version 4. If I tell myself, okay, for version 4, I skip everything. I skip the entirety of version 4 and I only pull for vertical investments in version 3. So maybe 1 or 2 cost upgrades, and then I just pivot to version 5 the year after. Then it will make sense, right? If I'm going to be doing that, then I will go ahead and get myself a Signature Lycone. So I don't need to construct a new archetype in version 4 anymore, because a new archetype is 4 costs immediately at the start. Then if you want to get more Signature Lycones, E2s, E1s, it will probably take you roughly 8 costs-ish to finish one team in that one version. Whereas compared to making older teams, you typically only need like a fraction of that cost, because you basically just need like 1 more copy for E1, right? Maybe 2 more for E2, maybe 1 add-on here and there, and you should be able to still get rid of the content relatively easily, right? So for now, I don't really have any fixed plans to take any future vertical investments of Herta, but if I see a potential in which she can actually not be a potential woman, then I'll most definitely get an add-on first, and then we'll see where it goes from there, right? So this is gonna be that. Okay, Mydei. Like I mentioned, this guy was pretty much like he was like an accident, right? He was kind of like an accident that we got in a single temple, but because we got this Mydei, we were actually able to clear Anomaly Arbitration night stages, because I don't have a third team. Because by the time when Bob was created back in start of this 2025, right, we didn't even know Anomaly Arbitration was a thing. So my initial plan was just basically build 2 teams and get it over and done with. But because we got this brand new DPS Mydei over here, he actually helped us a lot, especially when it comes to Anomaly Arbitration going forward into our third team content, right? So we are also going to be running him at an E0 as a baseline. We did not get a Signature Lycone, but I would say his Signature Lycone is also really, really good. His Tracer is pretty all max, exact same set as Herta, running the bone set. I would say the actual build is not too far off, because plus 48% crit rate is going to be giving us 92 with 8k HP, right? It's just that we don't have enough crit damage because we're literally running this, whatever the fuck this is, Firefly Evo Lycone, which is damn. That just do be crazy. And all of our relic set is gonna be some of the leftovers that we have been sharing with the Herta. So nothing too crazy over here. Honestly, I kind of have to run HP main, because if I were to go ahead with the crit damage, right, his HP is gonna be below 8k, which is not something I want. He has to be on 8k HP in order to get a max value from the crit rate, which is why I just went for the HP sphere over there. So this is gonna be HP, and this is gonna be speed boost if I want to tune bro with Sunday over there, right? Then maybe if I want to combine it with Cyrene one fine day, I would give this to Mydei, but because Cyrene is always tied to my strongest possible team, it is gonna be a little bit more difficult, right? So that is gonna be that. Gallagher, huge shout out to bro. In our early days of playing the free-to-play account, the moments in which I was only running Bilo and Sustain, and then we got ourselves a Gallagher, it was the reason why we could clear all of our endgame content at the start of the game. Especially even before bro's Eidolon. I would say his Eidolon 6 is the one that gives the winner's efficiency, which is really, really good. Even before that, I think we couldn't even cleanse, by the way. Like, before we unlocked this E2, our Gallagher could not even cleanse. But despite all that, we basically just used bro in every single endgame because Hyacine was not a thing. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, we have not just one, but two version 3 sustains. One is free, one is an absolute fucking cinema of a unit. Gallagher has been spending quite a lot of time in the retirement home, right? So the only times where I'll actually take bro out over either DHPT or Hyacine is probably if I need a third team content. Alright, third team content, I might either bring bro out or will just do sustainless. So that is kind of pretty much it for Gallagher. Builds wise, I haven't really upgraded him a very, very long time. We're going with the 4P circles. I'm not using him for any break because my bot account does not play any super break unit. So it's just gonna give us the additional 32% crit damage, or rather 36% crit damage from stacking on circles 2Ps, right? So that is pretty much it. Next guy, free unit. For the free unit over here, technically, he doesn't really need a lot going on for him, because you just need to slap on this high attack light cone. If you really, really want a little bit more of a quality of life, you can get the S1 so that you can get +1 skill point. But I never really found myself the need for that particular cost anyways. And then we're just going to be running the brand new 4Ps, which is going to be the same set as Deliver, so it's very, very efficient. As well as the Luxaga, which we could basically craft ourselves when we get this, like, for very, very straightforward unit that is not going to be too crazy, right? And he has been able to get the job done almost every single time whenever we're going to use him with our endgame content. So that's going to be our free DHPT. Alrighty, Mem. The thing with Mem is, right, before Mem, we actually had to use our HMC for a while because we couldn't even unlock. Mem was not a thing, alright? So our HMC, I think we used both for like a few weeks. It was actually really, really good, even though I don't play Super Break, specifically HMC, Gallagher, and Hunt March 7th. That was a pretty decent time, especially when we were trying to clear out the content in Simulated Universe as well as Divergent Universe. But the moment Mem came out, then there is very, very, basically zero reason for me to ever use HMC ever again because I don't play Super Break, right? So this unit, in my personal opinion, is why Honkai Star Rail is the greatest card game of all time. Because this unit is free. And you legitimately have an equivalency of this back in version 2 is that if they gave Babin for free back in version 2, that is how good this unit is. So the thing with Babin is that at this point, she's not free. Unless they make Babin free in the future, Babin is not free. Now that we get this for free, instead of HMC for version 2, which is only gonna be for a super DPS, the meta was then shaped around RMC, the additional charge, the summons, which can actually make use pretty much every single unit in HSR. Alright, I know it's like, bro, like some of the less knowing people, or like people that don't really know how this game works, they always kind of argue, oh, Babin is meant for follow-up attackers back in version 2, right? That would be the same line of argument. Oh, RMC was made for remembrance units. Because the best install is pretty much just in that one guy team, right? You want to use your gadgets. It doesn't work that way because you can, in fact, pretty much just use this with every single unit. Not even just in Enforced, but as long as you're a crit DPS, you can use this. So I would say that this was a very, very well-designed unit, basically given for free. And then on top of that, we got another upgrade, which is the Enhanced Basic Attack, alongside with our Light Cone, which is also free. So I think this is like one of the best units that we have ever seen as a free-to-play, right? And I can say this as a free-to-play because we are a free-to-play in this game. So going forward into version 4, even though I've used bro for like almost everywhere, legit almost everywhere, it does make me feel a little bit sad because when version 4 rolls around, I'm not too sure how many more times can I still use RMC. Because unfortunate thing is, if you were to use RMC for one team, you cannot use the same MC again for our team, right? You can't split HMC RMC, you can't split RMC into version 4 MC. So when that day comes, I will see if we even want to go down that path, because it would be relatively expensive to build up a whole new cause team without the reliance of the version 4 units. Because if you're going to be running the version 4 MC, chances are the version 4 MC, I don't know how they're going to cook it. Hopefully they can still make it work with the older versions, but I find it very difficult for them to make it work with the older versions, especially because RMC with the true damage is just going to be that good, right? So that is pretty much what I have in mind. The builds wise, honestly, also not that crazy. My speed is really low, but it's basically a couple of them leftover sets that I have from farming from Mimi. So yep, nothing too crazy. That'll pretty much do. That'll pretty much it, right? Okay, maybe I can change it to Sunday or like the other guy with more speed. But that is going to be our RMC. Next guy, Anaxa. So I would say that personally, I made this video a couple of months back where I think that Anaxa was basically HSR's biggest mistake from developers because they made him too strong. And unfortunately, this game doesn't have PP or whatever. People don't really give a shit about it that much. But I think his fundamental concept as a unit, it was balanced around with the Herta's vertical investment. Right? Like if you guys was sticking around for our Anaxa leading up to his actual release, before he actually came into the scene, most of the time we are just gonna be viewing him. He's kind of like the Cyrene to the Phynon or the Evernight to the Castorice. Right? He is basically the Anaxa to the Herta here. But the thing with Anaxa is he is so skill point efficient and he works so well with Sunday. Then people realize that wait, he just deals damage a lot faster compared to the Herta. And it also makes him a lot easier to scale if you were to tune down into non-AoE content. So like single target, because he does exceptional toughness bar damage in non-single target content, right? So for example, if they actually were to nerf bro, right? If there was ever gonna be like a Riot Games fix, they will make his follow-up skill not do toughness bar damage. But of course, people are gonna cry and I whine, and understandably so, because I've been using it for so long. But I think he's legitimately just way too strong on the unit, which is to the point where it kind of undermined the value of the Herta by quite a bit. So now that we got ourselves this E0 Azure Anaxa, and this icon was basically given for free, we have seen situations where instead of I ran the Herta, if it's pure single target, I can just run Hyper Carrier Anaxa alongside our Sunday. Then I'll get our E1 Tribbie, I can get our Cyrene or whatever it's gonna be, and the job will pretty much be more or less done. But just because of like how absolutely insane this guy actually is, right? So the build is also gonna be once again the exact same with the Herta. We've been sharing these three sets almost all the time, and then sometimes I use this with this, sometimes I use this with this, but that is gonna be pretty much it, right? So this is gonna be a universal attack with double crit and an attack with double crit, just for a little bit more of a swappability over there. Ease or Ezio. I don't think I have any plans on getting a Anaxa vertical investment. I feel like bro is perfect the way he is at ease or Azure. I don't think he's gonna be worth anything more, because for every one cost I'm gonna be spending with him, I might as well just allocate it to a proper DPS with a better E2, right? So I think ease or Azure is his legit perfect stopping point, and that is pretty much gonna be done, right? Alright. Heap as a unit. I know people recently, y'all probably would have felt whether or not Heap has fell off. Alright. Heap's use case nowadays is getting lower and lower. First with Cyrene, and next with single target environment going into version 4. So I'm pretty sure y'all might be, oh my god bro, Heap was a wasted pool. I know concept, right? So the way I see this is HSR's design philosophy in every version, there will always be at least one generalist, bar none. V1 was Runmei, V2 was Babin, V3 was Teep for their rate up, right? For Teep specifically, I would say if you are gonna be taking them into a place, I find it very difficult for her to lose her home in pure fiction, just like how it will be very difficult for Runmei to lose her home in Epoch Shadows. Because Teep's kit is fundamentally just gonna be designed for all of the AoE damage, getting the hits, and then once you get the E1, which to me, it is the single best item in the entire game. Even as a free-to-play, you should be getting this, right? Free-to-plays can get items. It is about what type of items you want to invest in with the same amount of strategies that you have. And we are not talking about like you're going to be a casual, you don't want to clear. I'm talking about a free play that if you really want to clear endgame efficiently, sometimes this kind of stuff is gonna be what allows you to get there, right? So I don't see any faults in free to play any island. If a free to play want to save everything and get an E6, so be it. Okay, but I think E6 is a huge gamble, because if you were to invest E6 into one unit, it'll be very hard to pivot away. So that's why I say, like, sometimes for most of the situation, at best, keep at E0. But if some E1s, and in this case E2s, alright, well, this E2 is not good, but like some E1 and E2 are that good, even as a free to play, you can go ahead and get them, right? I think it will do wonders for your account as compared to, let's say, you pull like 3 different E0s and all of them are going to be useless by the 6 months, right? So that is going to be that. For the actual build in Tribbie, this has not changed for a very long time. We're always going to be using energy regeneration with HP as well as crit damage, just for the highest possible amount of damage possible, and getting this as close to 68% crit rate for 100%. Now, the world in 4.0 or 4.x, right? If they are going to be getting up the next generalist support, I hope that at least with the E1 Tribbie, she will end up a little bit less homeless, similar to Runmei, because I think Bobbin now, her home is a very niche 0 cycle scenarios. You can still see Bobbin here and there. Other than that, it's very hard to justify using her, especially with the version 2 DPS backlines. Good thing that we don't really need a Signature Lycon, because DD is just absolutely the most insane Lycon in the entire world. So this is going to be our team, 0 regrets, very good for our investments. And let's just say if version 4 doesn't really do the ending too good, we can always try to pivot her back into our D Herta and Anaxa team as well. So always going to be having a home for Leo Bro, right? And our final 5-star is going to be none other than Mr. Sunday. And there's a very good reason why I also left Sunday as the last unit, because I was kind of talking this to my chat the other day, right? Sunday, right now, right, when we pull bro, very good. And in fact, we got in the temple, right? So I don't really think I can complain about it. But out of all the units, every single unit I have on my account right now, out of everything here, the only guy that I could see having the highest likelihood of kind of losing value is most likely going to be Sunday. Okay, we're not going to include Mydei because this bro was an accident, right? He is at the 3rd chow. Right, I didn't wear protection and then he just came out in like a temple, so we're not going to consider bro. So by right, this guy shouldn't even be here, but I'm glad that he's here because he helps with the 3 team content. But in terms of the pools that we actually went ahead and planned as Bob, right, because all our pools, we pool with a purpose, right? We pool with a purpose. Sunday is most likely going to be my one single pool that I will see lesser value of. This might change depending on what version 4 is going to release. So for example, if version 4 actually does turn out to be a skill point focused environment, for example, if we're going to be caring about a Sparkle, then maybe I can still cook up a couple of things here and there with Sunday, because we do have Sundays as one itself, right? So this is honestly a pretty heavy cost for free to play, going for 2 costs in the support, in which I can't really even use bro that much aside from maybe hyper carry Anaxa or hyper carry Mydei, right? So it is already a very niche use case scenario for Sunday, which also brings me back to like this point where like people say that Sunday's value is really good, right? You don't need a generalist support for your own account if you don't have those DPS for the generalist supports. Like, it doesn't really matter if Sunday works that well with so many different crit DPS, but like, if you don't even have those 5, 6, 7 different DPS, then why would you even run Sunday in the first place? Is that as a free-to-play, your scope will never be that wide to target so many different DPS for you to pull a support that, oh my god, I want a support that can support every single team. So for me, it is also the reason why till this day, I still have not claimed the Runmei, right? This account does not have Runmei, and it does not have Bronya, because even though they are like great generators, right? Runmei is a really good generate support, I don't need her. Because as a free-to-play, I only care about the teams in which I can give the highest amount of cost investment and be the most efficient with my pools in the long run. Because if I just focus on this one team, I technically save more Stellar Jades because I don't need to pool for so many different other teams to multi-divest, because my one team has not enough cost. You know what I'm saying? So this is like my mentality behind a free-to-play account. It is okay to go, in fact, I personally think it is better to go into niche comps, and if option A, that niche comp that you invested is something that you want to play, you can just invest in them 2 to 3 costs again for the course of next 1 year, get their E2s, get their S1s, and you can still make them clear. It is the same thing as like Facials, Acherons, even Super Raid. If they were to get an upgrade, you can still make them clear all the end content, and you don't really need to keep pulling like all those like different DPSs if you don't want to, right? If you don't want to. So at this point, if version 4 does release, okay, if it's good that they release a hyper carry setup, right? If they can make use of Sunday, then what essentially is going to happen is if I want to play the hyper carry, I can pull an E0 S0, I'll combine with Sunday, and then I'll have a third team that will be probably stronger than my 0 cost Mydei, right? Or rather 1 cost Mydei. Because that will be the new rate up environment. So the new rate up environment version 4 is definitely going to be way more suitable for the newer units compared to the older units back then. So if that is going to be the case, I think this guy can still see something, right? But if they were to release, let's just say like another version 4 support that is doing what Sunday is doing, but like way better, it will leave me in a very, very awkward scenario because I can't justify putting that support when I have a Sunday. Because I already spend these pools as a free play, right? My pools invest into Sunday, they are never coming back. So for me to go out and throw Sunday away, and I just get the latest new toy as a free play is exactly what would basically break your account because you keep chasing the new things with zero disregard for everything that has been going on your account because they're money that you already spent, right? Which is why even till this day right now, Bob, we have a overwhelming amount of pools. I think this is roughly 210, 220 pools going into version 4 as a free play. As a free play, right? So because of this mindset that I have on the free play account progression, I still have a ample amount of strategy saved up, and as much as I can, if I don't need to upgrade, then I just don't get an upgrade. It's like if I were to use the same phone for 3 years, if the next phone comes out in the 4th year, if my phone is still working, I'm not gonna get an upgrade. There's no point, right? Unless my phone literally physically breaks down, I cannot turn on the screen and I can't call or I can't use it. That is okay, you know what? At that point when it's literally unplayable, then for like brand new new phone for the last like 3 to 4 years, that would be worth it. It is the exact same concept that I'm seeing in Honkai Star Rail. So because of this, even though that version 4 support or DPS or whatever it's gonna be, it might be clearing way better, way more comfortably. As a free-to-play account, I don't have the luxury to keep upgrading every single year. Alright, I can't change my entire team every single version because I really just spent an insane amount of cost for my first team and a mediocre amount of cost for my second team, which is probably at this point going to be E1 Tribbie and Anaxa as well as Herta. So for version 4, what I kind of want to expect and see going forward, because all these I didn't use, right? I didn't even use, right? For all these units going forward, I would hope to eventually lock in that second team. But it's basically going to come down to, do I want to buy the new phone or do I want to upgrade my old phone? Because this phone is my newest one. I don't think we need anything, but HSR does need a second team anyways. So I don't know if we are going to be logging for this route or if we can just see where Sunday plus that version 4 DPS, that version 4 flagship is going to take us, right? Ideally, in the best case scenario, as a free-to-play, is that I get enough pools to also still get that version 4 flagship. But that is just wishful thinking, right? I would never take the ability to secure a flagship for granted as a free-to-play because it's a lot of strategies, right? If you're unlucky, you go hard PD, you lose, it will become very, very expensive. So we'll see how 2026 is gonna bring us going forward. But at this point, I would say that thank you so much for joining us in our Bob journey for the past 1 year. All of our pooling decisions, all of our pooling plans, all of the content and everything, it has always been done in the purpose of basically, as a free-to-play, how do you clear these content HSR as efficiently as possible, right? It was never really about like, I can only run 4 stars, right? I can only run E0s. I can only use a 1-cost team. Because frankly speaking, there are like a lot better chance for that because for all these things, you either have insane relics or insane items. You know, you just kind of just pick one. There's not a lot of in between, at least for HSR. So let me know what you guys want to know about Bob. Anything that you guys want to see. Wish you guys a happy 2026 because this video should go up on 2026 1st Jan. Word of the day. Happy. Join this. Use code POKE. 10% game subs. All the best at Gallagher. Oh, wait. Pause. Alright, I've been told by my Bob council. To flex this. Whoa! Wait, how do I? We didn't even claim this! That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. That is crazy. Oh my god, plus 10 boosts. Plus 10 boosts as a free-to-play. It's just that easy, right? Plus 10 boosts as a free-to-play. Yep, that just do it. Yeah, Bob is so relatable. He doesn't even want a 10 boost. That's 100% data bank.
The greatest unrelatable.
Shout out to Bob Council. Y'all are absolutely insane, right? 100%. I don't even think MrPokke's account has 100% data bank. Bro, Bob Council power crap the executive account managers. Alright.